Yo, yo, yo. I don't really want to waste too much time, but we got a three-part episode we doing right now. It's gonna be this episode, next episode, following episode. This the whole thing is 58 minutes long, so I'm ready to get right into it. I'm gonna have let me set up my timer before I get into it. I wanna since it's 58 minutes, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 20 minutes each. So each episode is gonna be 20 minutes. Okay, let me find my clock. Okay, I got it. And let me set the timer for 20 minutes. We'll do 20 minutes so when the video starts. So we're going now.
Super Sentai has established its reputation as one of the largest, most creative, and successful superhero franchises in the world. Throughout multiple eras, Super Sentai has evolved with many different styles, themes, and stories, and today I'm going to be featuring every single one of these historic milestones. This video features every season of Super Sentai, as well as all of the important films, crossovers, and even Western adaptations. So sit back and relax. This is the complete history of Super Sentai. In 1975, Super Sentai would debut, although the series wouldn't be known by that name just yet. Kicking off the series was Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger, translated as Secret Squad 5 Ranger, created by Shotaro Ishinomori, who also created Kamen Rider, and inspired by the legendary 1972 anime Kagaku Ninja Tai Gatchaman. This debut series ran for a massive 84 episodes from 1975 to 1977. In Go Ranger, a planetary defense organization known as Eagle, or the Earth Guard League, stands against the evil Black Cross Army. After the Black Cross Army destroys many Eagle bases throughout Japan, only 5 members of Eagle remain, and they join together to become Go Ranger. In their battle against the Black Cross Army, the Go Rangers would utilize a variety of different weapons and tools to give themselves the upper hand in battle, and they removed their helmets' visors to produce their individual weapons. They also had motorcycles and an aircraft named Varibloon, a precursor to the mecha that would be featured in later seasons. With a likable cast, colorful suits, and cool pieces of equipment, Go Ranger set the standard for what would become one of the most legendary superhero franchises in the entire world. 1977 introduced the World 2 Jaka, Dengeki Tai, a sequel to Go Ranger that was also created by Shotaro Ishinomori, featuring a playing card motif represented by the J.
Alright, I stopped it on my clock and on here. I wanna make sure I got my speech chat turned on, so in case anybody get on here, I'll be able to hear y'all talk about the show or whatever. Anyways, let's get right back to it. Here we go. Wait.
A, A, K, and Q on their respective helmets, which of course stands for Jack, Ace, King, and Queen. The series would begin with only 4 members present on the team as they take on criminal organization crime before being led by Big One, the first ever White Ranger later in the series. Due to a lack of popularity, Jaka was cancelled early and the episode count finished at only 35 episodes, making it the shortest season of any official Sentai. Despite the early cancellation of the series, Jaka introduced many tropes and signature aspects of Super Sentai that would go on to be what this iconic franchise would be known for. This was the first series within the franchise to feature transformation devices for the Rangers to Henshin. This was the first series to feature a White Ranger, as I said. This was the first series to feature a skirt for a female ranger. This is one of only 4 teams to not have the word Sentai in their name, and the first Sentai to air in the Philippines, with the name Lucky Aces. 1979 was the year of Battle Fever J, a team of international heroes representing various countries and the first season to be known officially as Super Sentai. After
Right.
Toei worked with Marvel Comics on the Spider-Man Toku series, Battle Fever J would also be produced by Marvel and even featured characters from Marvel such as Miss America.
君はミスアメリカとなる。
Yes, sir.
Each ranger on this team is named after various countries throughout the world, and Battle Fever J would help to solidify the Super Sentai formula going forward, with Battle Fever Robo, their giant mecha, and the first giant robo in Sentai history. Although Battle Fever J wasn't referred to as Super Sentai while on the air, it would later be recognized as the first season of Sentai, and then later on as the third season of Sentai. The origins of the Super Sentai name were pretty messy.
石田京介、君はバトルフランス。Oui, monsieur.
Battle Fever J was the first Sentai series to feature a Black Ranger and Orange Ranger. This was also the first series that featured mouths sculpted onto the heroes' helmets. After a successful third entry into the series, Super Sentai would return again in 1980 with Denshi Sentai Denjiman. This series featured a team of heroes that descended from the people of Denji Star as they battled against the evil Vader clan.
楽しみだね。
Featured within the Vader clan was Queen Hedrian, played by one of the most iconic Toku actresses of all time in Machiko Soga, who we'll definitely be talking about more throughout this video. Denjiman was the first Sentai to have a transforming robo named Daidinjin, something that would go on to become one of Sentai's most well-known characteristics. This series was also the first series where the monster of the week would grow into a giant to fight the mecha. This series was also the first season to feature an actual visor on the helmets, while seasons prior to this one used the same material for the visors as the rest of the helmet. This was the first time that a Sentai had a device which gave them the ability to henshin anywhere, as before this they could only do it at specific locations.
It's like
After the success of Denjiman, Toei prototyped various ideas for continuing on with the Denjiman story. After much internal discussion, Toei decided to produce a direct sequel to Denjiman in 1981, with the release of Taiyo Sentai Sun Vulcan, featuring the return of Machiko Soga's Queen Hedrian character alongside Hell Saturn, who is a pretty obvious Darth Vader ripoff.
ブラックマンゴの戦力は100倍じゃ。
This was the final Sentai series to have a Marvel copyright attached to it, but Marvel would not be directly involved with this production. This was the only official Sentai series with only 3 members, and they represented land, air, and sea respectively. This was the first season to have a combining robo, and this was the only Sentai season with no female rangers. The great Stan Lee was a self-identified Sun Vulcan fan, and he wanted to adapt it into an American show, but the source material was considered too childish and silly by his peers, which made it very difficult to get off the ground, unfortunately. 1982 featured a new Sentai representing various ancient civilizations, Dai Sentai Goggle 5, translated as Great Sentai Goggle 5. In Goggle 5, our heroes take on the dark science empire Death Dark, an evil organization responsible for the downfall and destruction of many civilizations throughout history.
Hey, this is starting to get good.
This show was originally meant to be called Go-Go 5, but that name would be used 17 years later. Goggle 5 was the last season where the Rangers would sport cloth suits featuring scarves, reminiscent of Kamen Rider. 1983 brought us a Sentai season inspired by the game of baseball, Kagaku Sentai Dynaman, or Science Squad Dynaman.
I'm on Dynamite!
This series was originally conceptualized as a baseball-themed Sentai that would have been named Baseball Sentai V-Leaguer, but clearly it was changed to Dynaman, with more of a science theme. This series also has another unique distinction. Due to the excessive amounts of gunpowder and the prevalence of explosions in the series, fans in Japan would give Dynaman the nickname Kyaku Sentai because Kyaku means gunpowder in Japanese. This is the first Sentai season featuring spandex suits for the team, something that would become synonymous with Sentai and appear in all but 3 of the following seasons. In 1984, Japan was introduced to Chodinshi Bioman, translated as Super Electron Bioman. Hundreds of years prior to the show, 5 people were showered with bioparticles, granting them power that would be passed down from generation to generation. The power would be lost until the android Peebo brings together 5 descendants to fight against Dr. Man and become Bioman. This season took a lot of risks in regards to tone and format, skewing to a slightly older audience. This was the first Sentai with 2 female rangers, and also the first season with a female Yellow Ranger. And this was the only season of Sentai released prior to Zyuranger that would be featured in Power Rangers, as Bioman would be used in a very, very early pilot episode. 1985 featured a team of military personnel themed around mythological creatures, Dengeki Sentai Changeman. In this series, a team from the Earth Defense Force takes on the Great Star League Guzma in an effort to defend the Earth. After the success of Bioman, Toei tried to recapture the magic, although with a focus toward appealing to both older and younger audiences. Various tropes that had been abandoned by Bioman would return with Changeman, such as the Monster of the Week format. The original title of the series was going to be Uchi Sentai Cosmo Man and would have been themed around space. This was the first season with a female White Ranger. 1986 was the year of Choshinsei Flashman, or Supernova Flashman. This series featured a team of rangers who were kidnapped by the reconstructive experiment Empire Mess before being rescued and trained on different planets by an alien race called Flash. After returning to Earth years later, they would form Flashman and fight against Mess. But due to what is known as the anti-Flash phenomenon, they would only be able to remain on Earth for 1 year before they would start to take damage. Flashman is notable for being the first season to ever add a second giant robo in Great Titan. 1987 saw the release of one of the most popular international releases in Super Sentai history with Hikari Sentai Maskman, also known as Light Squad Maskman. This series was originally conceptualized as somewhat of a callback to previous series, with the original suit designs featuring helmet molds that were reminiscent of Battle Fever J. In fact, the look of X1 Mask would keep this aesthetic. Eventually, during pre-production, the project would go in a new direction with a completely fresh theme, ki power and auras. Our team would utilize internal aura power and channel this energy into a fight against Underground Empire 2. As I mentioned, this series featured X1 Mask, who only appeared in 1 episode, but is widely considered a precursor of the official 6th Rangers that would come later. This is also the first season where each member of the team had their own individual mecha, something that would go on to be a signature element of the Sentai formula.
Right.
In 1998, Toei released the final Super Sentai show of the Showa era, Shouju Sentai Live Man, translated as Super Beast Squad Live Man. This was an animal-themed Sentai and was considered an anniversary season due to Gold Ranger and Battle Fever J not originally being recognized as Sentais. Our heroes were gifted students from Academia Island who fight against the armed brain army Volt as Live Man.
Like I ain't never watched that, just
Assisted by the android Colon, Live Man would add 2 more Rangers to their original 3-man team, being the first season to do so. This season was also the first season to feature a female Blue Ranger, and it was the first season with a Black and Green Ranger on the same team. 1989 brought us a vehicle-themed Sentai in Kosuku Sentai Turbo Ranger, or High Speed Sentai Turbo Ranger, kicking off the Heisei era. This season would start with a continuation of Sentai's 10-year anniversary celebration, where in the very first episode we would see previous teams alongside Turbo Ranger. It's worth noting that this was not the 10th Sentai, but at this time, Go Ranger and Jaka were still not officially recognized as Sentai seasons yet. In Turbo Ranger, a team of high schoolers are brought together by Dr. Dazai and a fairy named Silon to become Turbo Ranger and fight against the 100 Boma tribes. This season sadly had 0 roll calls. In 1990, Super Sentai introduced a team of siblings who work as teachers when they aren't fighting the Zone Empire. The Hoshikawa siblings were the first sibling team in the history of Sentai, and in pre-production, this show had the working titles of Vector Man and the hilariously bad Brother Man.
The Brother Man.
1991 saw the introduction of a dynamic and exciting bird-themed Sentai called Chojin Sentai Jetman.
Yeah. What happened to Brother Man?
After gaining powers via birdonic waves, Jetman would take on the dimensional war party Vyram, and this series was famously inspired by Kagaku Ninja Tai Gatchaman, the classic anime that inspired Sentai, featuring a squad of bird-themed heroes. After Five-Man failed to achieve the success that Toei had hoped, Jetman was planned to be the final Sentai in the series. But due to Jetman's success, the Sentai franchise would obviously continue. Jetman would make a few changes from the previous seasons, and those changes, along with the unique bird theme, resonated strongly with fans. When the season began, the team was incomplete until recruiting 2 additional members, and this was a first for the series. Additionally, before Jetman, heroes were referred to mostly by their color on the team, but this show featured the heroes being referred to mostly by their names, something quite unusual at the time. Jetman also borrowed from romantic dramas that were very popular in Japan at the time, even featuring a love triangle that turned out to be one of the most interesting aspects of the story. The series featured Tetra Boy, the first ever third Robo in Sentai. This was also the last time that a core team member dies, where after this, they were all 6th or extra rangers. This series turned out to be extremely popular and just might have saved the Super Sentai franchise. 1992 was the year of Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, themed around prehistoric dinosaurs and other large creatures. This series focuses on a team of ancient warriors from 170 million years ago who henshin into Zyuranger and take on the witch Bandora, played, of course, by the masterful Machiko Soga. This series is notable for featuring the very first official 6th Ranger in Dragon Ranger, a man named Burai who is the brother of Geki or Tyrano Ranger, leading to an explosive and impactful story between them filled with heart-stopping action and a premise that's easy to invest into. This was the first season themed around dinosaurs or prehistoric creatures. This was also the first season to focus on fantasy instead of science fiction, and this was the first season to be given an American adaptation.
As Power Rangers, you will have access to a universe of power and will command a fleet of fighting machines called Zords.
I don't get it.
1993 saw the culmination of Toei and Saban's continuous effort to bring Super Sentai to television in the West with Saban's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Power Rangers would utilize various types of footage from Zyuranger, including henshin footage, mecha footage, and footage from the villains. However, new scenes with American actors would be added. This show would focus on a team of teenagers with attitude who were summoned by Zordon and Alpha 5 to defend the city of Angel Grove from Rita Repulsa and morph into the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Alright, let's do it!
Power Rangers became an absolute cultural phenomenon in the West and would continue to spawn semi-annual releases well into the future. Back in Japan, 1993 was looking great with an epic new season of Super Sentai in the form of Gosei Sentai Dairanger. This season utilized some unique themes such as Chinese mythology and kung fu with some of the most hard-hitting and visually dynamic action that the series had ever seen before. This show features a team of heroes assembled by Master Kaku because of their high levels of ki, so that they can battle an ancient threat known as the Gorma tribe. This show's mecha and villain footage, as well as Kiba Ranger, were used for Season 2 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Kiba Ranger was a young boy named Ko, and he appeared to grow into an adult when henshining. Dairanger added a more aggressive edge to the series, and fans loved it. After Dairanger focused on Chinese themes and story elements, Toei would pivot to Japanese themes with the Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger. Kaken Ranger featured a unique and charismatic team of ninjas as they would fight against the yokai. Although this show focuses on Japanese themes, it is partially inspired by the famous Chinese book Journey to the West, a story about a varied mix of personalities joining together to go on a journey.
I think Mighty Morphin did it.
Footage from this show was used for Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers, and the working title for this show was Ninja Sentai Go Ninja. 1995 brought us Choriki Sentai O-Ranger, a season themed around ancient civilizations. In this season, the O-Rangers would take on the machine empire Baranoia. This show was the 20th anniversary of Go Ranger, and consequently Toei wanted to have a darker tone that would appeal to older audiences. However, some saddening real-life circumstances occurred, such as a chemical attack in a subway and an earthquake in Kobe that both unfortunately ended the lives of many people. This resulted in a tone shift during the season in response to these events. In the West, this show was adapted into Power Rangers Zeo. O-Ranger struggled in terms of television ratings, but actually broke records in regards to toy sales. Also in 1995, Super Sentai began what would become a tradition with the very first installment of the Versus series of movies.
We're gonna end it here. We're gonna get into the part 2. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure y'all tune in for the next episode.